I recorded this video in January 2025, so by the time this has come out, some of the numbers would have changed, so please think about that. I want to take the moment to reflect upon what my YouTube journey has and what I have gotten out of it. And I'm going to tell you, I've got an incredible amount out of it, and I'm very excited about where it's going. I never thought I'd live to say that. It's been odd. You know, I've gone through making 73 videos at this point. They're all posted. You can check them out on my channel. But I also managed to do 52 reels as well. Again, the algorithm tends to reward you when you have variety of reels and videos. So I'm now mastering that process. I followed the formulas out there of how to get an editor. I found Zane on Fiverr, and Zane, he lives in Pakistan, and 12 hours difference between where I live and where he is. And he has been fantastic. And over time, I've moved Zane over to a regular monthly payment, and we have a regular weekly meeting. And we've moved everything over to Trello, so we have a project management system. So we're getting way more professional at this. Am I at the point where I monetize? Maybe by the time this video gets released, I may be, but I'm fairly comfortable at this stage of my YouTube journey, viewing it as my YouTube MBA. You know, I'm paying a bit of money to actually understand how to learn how to do this. I'm learning about being a director, I'm learning production, I'm learning editing, I'm also learning the marketing of my content. It's incredible. While I was a consultant before who got involved in these things, I now have to do all these things self. And with the state of technology as it is, it's incredible. Let's break down an important part of all of this. Why does this YouTube channel exist, and why am I creating content? Let's get into it. At 60, I'm in semi-retirement. I've had a good career. I was diligent about my money. I'm fairly comfortable. I need a new challenge. And I never thought about it much until I realized I could use video and have a little bit of a media channel here to explore ideas and share some of my ideas. And I became enamored with the idea, and back in March of 2022, I got my friend Trent here and had a chat about it. Trent does a bit of coaching, and we did 10 videos, and that was a great start. And it was very motivating. And I said, you know, this could be an ongoing project, and it gives me a chance to expense my lifestyle a bit, to be quite honest. The next reason for why this exists is, you know what, a little bit of extra money doesn't hurt. So I am hoping that I get monetized, and, you know, from the side hustle, which could be a full-time hustle, I am making a little bit of extra cash, which will go towards my food, travel, and fitness habits. That's not a bad thing, is it? We could always do with a little extra money at this point. I'm not going to complain. When it does happen, I'd be very thankful for it. I most probably get a check for $1 every 3 months, but you know what? That's $1 more than I had before, even though it most probably cost me $1,000 to get that $1. But that's okay, you know, it's all fine. Again, it is working towards that goal of making a little extra. The other thing too is I realized I have a few things I have to say. Over my career, I was an environmental economist. I worked in public policy. I worked in marketing. I worked on big infrastructure projects, economic development. I even went back to school and I did a bit of work in demography and epidemiology. I have a weird background. I also got the opportunity to work with weird and diverse teams, and I learned a lot. And for the content I create, food, wine, and travel, it's fairly evident that I'm bringing those skills to there, because I tend to view the world from a systems approach. And I like to connect things that are not seemingly connected. But I also realized that for my years in politics and being a bit of an activist, I used to do a lot of stuff around AIDS and same-sex marriage and other forms of activism around refugees. I feel good about connecting some of the ideas to that. And on top of that, where the world is today and some of the challenges that we face going forward, may it be socially, environmentally, and economically, I do feel, given my 30+ years of working in the field, there's a lot of things I could bring to the topic talking about, to bring understanding to things that are just seemingly day-to-day phenomena that are fairly intricate and you should think about just a little bit. So I hope that in terms of the things I'm talking about that you are appreciating what I have. And I'm also finding that it's good to consider a broader audience. Most of the times I was talking to executives, now I get to share these ideas with the general public, and that's fantastic. This next part was a bit more difficult to talk about. I have a passion for food and wine and travel. I love meeting new people. I have friends all around the world, but that's a passion I love to feed. But in doing this, man, you spend a lot of time. You're seeing yourself, you're seeing every hair out of place, you're seeing every time you go and you're realizing all your little ticks on the words that you rely on, and you get fixated on some of the internal barriers that prevent you from being more forthcoming and more outright who you are. Like, I go through all the sort of messages that my parents told me when I was young, that I see that on camera. I see things that, my ex would tell me that don't do that. And I realize I have to fight past that to really express an idea in a better way. And I've adopted this perspective that whatever I'm doing on YouTube is basically my personal therapy. Not to say that you're watching me process, things that have gone on to me mentally, but I am here thinking about me and how I want to tell that story in such a way that hopefully people like you, if you got to this point of the video, are watching. So in equating my passion with therapy, I am using this as a coaching mechanism to help me move on to a better me. And I feel good about it. It's interesting to see me when I started this and where I'm at now, and until I make that next video about all of this. And the thing that this has taught me about most importantly is personal responsibility. I am the one who is creating this content. I am the one who's driving the process. I am the one who's creating the stories and thinking about the subject matter. But it's also, I have to live that experience. So that therapy is making me think about who I am and how I can become better at doing those things. And that really is the goal of therapy. And in this path now, I am pursuing my passion. I loved what I did before. It was great. It was fantastic as part of a career. But I have suppressed a lot of my desires to try to make a career out of in the food and hospitality business. And lo and behold, I started with doing private dining, and that may be going in a whole new direction, hopefully. And we will see. Maybe in my early 60s, it's never too late to get into that business. And I'm keeping my fingers crossed that will come together. Stay tuned on that one. The fifth point I want to make is, look, when you've had a career and then you go into retirement, a lot of people say, oh, I'm going to do all these things in retirement. And there's a lot of people I know who have not prepared for retirement or have not really thought about new projects they want to take on in retirement. I'm one of these people who always have projects on the go. And I really like the idea that this is worth something. While it's a little disparate at this point, there's a little bit of wine content, there's a bit of food content. Oh, he's going back doing travel content, and he's doing these kind of reflective moment bits. What is this all about? Well, I'm trying things on for size. I'm using my first 5 to 6 years. I'm not really intending on getting monetized or trying to appeal to a particular demographic or audience just yet. And I hope that I don't necessarily do that, because for the large part I'm doing this for me, but also me sharing this with you and moving on to other bigger ideas I talk about in my next point. But I look forward to spending time every day now on that 1 to 2 hours, doing a little bit of editing, working with Zane, and exploring ideas on my YouTube channel. That has been truly rewarding. I can't begin to say that once I'm getting the hang of it and getting a lot more disciplined and consistent at it, i.e. personal responsibility in trying to have a functioning YouTube channel, it's been surprisingly good. I find that whole process incredibly rewarding, and I'm really happy I've taken it on. And let me know if you've noticed the changes and the quality of my content. I like to know, because that's a reflection of me analyzing me and trying to keep making it just a little bit better, all right? Really, one of the things I didn't expect I'd derive out of this journey. The last point I want to make is about community, specifically discovering community. I have a lot of weird intersection. I grew up in the Caribbean. I spent most of my life in Canada. I am of a multicultural background. You know, my DNA stretches across the foothills of the Himalayas from southern Afghanistan to Bengal, and I have a bit of British. You know, from my perspective, I'm typically Trinidadian. All my Trinidadian friends are mixed heritage, at least most. If you grew up in Trinidad, you can't avoid it, to be quite honest. Everybody has, as we say, a little something or something. But I love cricket, I love food, there are all these weird interests that don't necessarily place me in a neat box. And I'm realizing in doing this, people are finding me and I'm finding people. And the more I do this, the more I meet people in my tribe. And not to say I want to be tribal about it, because I like to be open to meeting people of diverse perspectives, backgrounds, and cultures, because again, how am I going to learn about food and wine otherwise, unless somebody's there to introduce it to me or introduce the concept of it to me. I've discovered that I'm not alone and that there's a lot more of you out there, and I like to discover in discovering me that you found somebody who is a little bit like you and can speak to the things that you relate. So in retrospect, I am getting a lot more out of this than I really thought I would be, but I'm also laying it out here on the line of why I got into this. And overall, the journey has been fun. I won't lie. It's a lot of hard work. And anybody says, oh, go and start a YouTube channel. And if you want to get serious about it, one of the things I remember Marquise Brownlee say is treat it like you're training as an athlete. And I've now incorporated that mindset into all aspects of my life. Everything requires a certain amount of diligence, discipline, and consistency. I know many of you have had that in your life, but for me at 60 and rediscovering my life and who I am and what the next 20 years is going to be like, this has been a great foundation to build on. And I want to take this opportunity to thank all of you who are here now and who are coming on board, for all your support, all the time that you're taking to watch my videos, and helping me be just a little bit better, that hopefully you too want to take a journey on self-improvement or improving some ideas or doing a bit of research, just a little bit better for you too. Okay folks, stay along for the journey. We're going to be doing some more travel, more food, and maybe new concepts around what I'm going to do around food and wine. And I'm very excited about what the future has to hold. And if you want to stick around for that, hit the like button, please subscribe. And again, thanks for watching. I hope that this has helped you just taste the world just a little bit better.